All right. So today's topic is about hitting the rock bottom and how to get out of the depression, how to overcome the depression. Because I hit the rock bottom. But again, again and again, I hit the rock bottom. Again and again, I go through resets. And you know what? That um, those moments are actually the moments of the truth. Those actually the moments of a full reset. Those are the doorway, those depth, those darkness moments are the moments of something greater, something that is more important. And like in the ancient wisdom, in Hermetic text of the Emerald tablet, it says, as above, so below. And as above, so below. So we can see that there is as in the high as same as in the low. As in the light, so is in the dark. So in the light, so is in the shadow. And there is always a rebirth in the seasons. There is always a rebirth in from winter into spring. There is always a rebirth from the death, from into rebirth. Night fades into a day. There is always a night, there is always a day. And our souls, they also need those resets. And every seeker that I know, every person who are on the spiritual path that I know, they also go they all of us, we go through the depth, we go through the highs and we go through the lows. And our lows are definitely different than the lows from people who are not seekers, from people who are not doing the spiritual work. But we still go through those times, we still go through those um, close to depression times. And I was just there last week in that depression time. But I don't call it a depression. I call it diving deeper into the truth. Because dark times are not negative. Dark times are the times where we can take a pause. And most of the time, we don't take the pause. Most of the time, we're just always on the run, always doing something. And it is hard for us to take the pause. But when we take the pause, we can start hearing the whispers of the hidden that are hiding in silence. And in the shadow, in those moments, we can find the truth. We can find the answers that we've been looking for. Because with those answers that we usually don't either see or don't want to see, they're all hiding in the depth, they're all hiding in the shadow. And we do not need to fear those times. We need to embrace those times. Just like I can bring you the analogy of the sleep. Like there are 24 hours in a day, and 8 hours out of all those 24 hours we're sleeping. So um, even in those times, even in the day, we see that a person or human, a human needs the time for reset. 8 hours out of 24-hour day, which is 30% of the day. Also, 30% of a week. What is the 30% of the week? 2 days, which is we are necessarily need to take a time off from work, from any type of the activity for the reset. So it is 2 days out of 7 days that we need to have rest and reset. Or even if we talk about month, it is 30% out of 1 month, like about 30 days is 9 days. So we need we need those times for the reset, to start for us to start hearing what we are looking for, and for us to start hearing the answers that we are looking for. So again, those depth, those times where we are going through hardship, those times that we are going through negative emotions, those times that we are going through uncertainty, uncertain moments, doubting ourselves, doubting the world, doubting our choices. We need those times. We need those moments. And I know that because most of the seekers, or that I know, most of my friends who are seekers, who are on a spiritual path, most of my students, my clients, they all go through that time. I haven't met one person who are always on those highs. So I just want to encourage you that it's okay to go through those times, that it's okay to feel unwanted. It's okay to feel unloved in those times, because they show you what you really want, what you've been avoiding to hear and understand your own self. Some of the practices that I recommend doing during this time is some of the practices from Energy Orgasms methodology that I teach are very helpful. For example, you can place both of your hands into your heart and close your eyes and feel the warmth of your hands on your heart. Feeling the warmth of your hands on your heart and diving deeper into that warmth. It doesn't require you to be super active, because if you are going through this rock bottom time, most likely you don't really want to do anything. So even if you're laying down or sitting down, you can always place your hands on the heart and feel the warmth of your hands. That's it. You can also write down, if you have strength, if you have power to write down, or you can simply ask your question and of like what feels heavy in the body. What feels heavy in the body? And answer yourself. What does it feel? What is this heavy feels like? What is it? And another question that you can ask yourself is, what are you afraid right now? Because most likely it is something that you're afraid and you don't want to admit to yourself. And Another part of another practice that I recommend is the sacred rest. Sacred rest is basically rest because, like I mentioned, there are so many seekers, so many spiritual people whose work is their life and whose life is their work. So when they merge into each other, we cannot differentiate or when the work starts and when the rest starts and when it ends. And it turns out that all we do is we work and live and merge it all together. So for our nervous system, for our brain, it is never ending story. It is never ending work. It's never ending work. And like I said at the beginning, that we do need those two those two 2 days. Sorry, I just lost the train of thought. We do need those 2 days out of 7 weeks to rest. And if you cannot make it 2 days out of seven days out of the week, then you have to kind of like find time during another month or another week to rest. Therefore, when we work nonstop, right? Even though that some of you will tell me right now that I love what I do, so everything that I do doesn't feel like work. But if you make living out of this, it is work. You do need to think about clients. You do need to think about events. Because I know for myself, sometimes I wouldn't go for the event and I would just stay home and rest rather than going to some spiritual event and meet other people. And it does feel like we don't know sometimes how to differentiate in between work and in between rest. So for me personally, that's why I got into this downtime last week, is because I was working nonstop for the last 4 months. So I took one day off here and there, but it was not consistent. It was not something that I would plan, and my nervous system got emptied and it put me down, and it actually made me stay home for a week so that I could rest and reset. But I was able to do that. I actually one of the not many lucky people who can just take a 1 week off and not be like super hit by it, because my work is in my work it is most of my processes are automated. So, and because of the my creation of the methodology of the energy orgasms, it is already systematized and I can take a week off. But and at the same time, I know that even though that I'm going to go deeper into those depths and start feeling those like close to depression motives and and times, I also know how to take me out of there, how to pull me out of those depths, so that I don't get too sad. um, Also, what else? What else? What else? What else? Also, another point from this message, from today's message, is that the rock bottom is actually not your enemy. it is your teacher. And I hope that what I just said and those guides and practices will help you to and will guide you through your next reset. So some of the practices, one practice is just to placing your hands on the heart, and that's it. You just feel the warmth. You just feel the warmth. Also, you can bring your hands on your shoulders and kind of hug yourself. That's it. You don't need to think about anything. You don't need to dig deeper or dive deeper. Those are just practices from energy orgasm methodology, right? Feeling the warmth, feeling the warmth. Another one, like I mentioned, is sacred rest. Basically, you just rest. You just rest. You can even put some show so that it would take your mind out of your thought process. I know most of the spiritual people and guides don't recommend it. I do. Because not always we can remove our thought process from our head. So for me, one of the easiest ways is to start watching some show. I mean, whatever you like, whatever makes you feel, whatever help you to take your thoughts, endless thoughts, from creation and not creation of another mat of unsolved problems into something that you don't need to solve. You need to bring yourself into the state where you don't need to solve problems, where you don't need to decide anything. You don't need to make any decisions. So in those times, you need to either lay down or walk if you can. If you can go on the in the if you can go into the nature and walk barefoot, that will also help. And if you can do journaling and asking your question, what feels heavy in the body and what am I afraid of right now, those are the practices that would help. Like I said, I'm fortunate enough that I can take those times off from my work, and I know 100 million other practices because of the energy orgasms, how to get out of those states, and not only, but how make the best out of those states. Because usually when you are in those depths, you receive so many profound, truthful messages, but actually hearing them and understanding them and acting on them, it's already a whole different animal. So, if you have found value here, please leave a comment sharing what you need to overcome, and maybe share this video with your friend, a friend who needs it right now, and or you can also join our free WhatsApp group that is called Finding the Truth in the Depth, that is dedicated to supporting us, me, all of you in those times. And you will be receiving through that chat different practices, how to overcome those states and how to stay in peace in those states. How to stay in peace in those states. Yeah. So in the comments, you will see the link to WhatsApp group. And I hope to see you there.